Welcome to Plot Twist, the show where we unpack the unexpected turns that shape our careers, relationships, and ourselves. I'm your host, Tiana, leader, speaker, and corporate mom. And I'm sitting down with guests that prove that growth begins often at the twist of a story. Let's dive in. For a lot of people, identity gets built around one defining role: the athlete, the executive, the expert. But what happens when the chapter you spent your whole life preparing for suddenly ends? Today's guest knows that transition firsthand. Rick Elmore went from the intensity and structure of the NFL to building something completely different as founder and CEO of Simply Noted. His story isn't just about leaving football. It's about redefining success, rediscovering purpose, and learning what work-life balance actually looks like after the quote-unquote spotlight fades. Rick, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So you're a unique guest to the show because typically my guests come on and they talk about how they had this burdensome career. They were looking for direction. They had no idea where to go. And then boom, this change happened for them. But for you, it's the opposite. You had a path, you had a direction. What did you believe your life and career was going to look like long term?
Well, that's a great question. I would kind of back up. I never planned on being an athlete. It was just something I kind of just like fell into. Had my childhood trauma when I was 7 years old. My father passed away, and sports were something that my parents or my mom did to keep us busy. Played all the sports, at a very young age, but I fell in love with football. And I always jokingly say did, but I did because I could hit people without getting in trouble. I was like a young kid, frustrated, and had all these intense emotions, and like football was like a great outlet. But yeah, I never really planned. It was never a goal to like go be a professional athlete. When I was about 15 years old, like sophomore in high school, like set like a California record for sacks as like a freshman. And my high school coach like shook me. He's like, Rick, like you don't realize like what you just did. Like this is really good. You need to like really pursue this. So like 16 kind of became like my goal to be a professional athlete. And I just obsessed about it. And I just worked at it every single day. Eyes open, the eyes shut. I just thought about it, trained, watched film, and it just really worked out for me. I got a scholarship to the University of Arizona, and then had a really good career there. I was a 3-year starter, and then led the Pac-10 back then in 2 stat categories as a junior and a senior, which was quarterback sacks, and then got drafted in the NFL. And at that point, I was confident in my ability. Just to even have an opportunity to go to the NFL, like you're an elite group. And if you're in that group, like you have the confidence to play forever. And that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to play until I was like 30 years old and go through 2 or 3 contracts, have generational wealth, that doesn't happen for everybody. I mean, that happens for like 1% of the people who actually go to the NFL. The NFL, stands for not for long for a reason. Most people who go there are for like 2 or 3 years. And that was my experience. But I'm so thankful it didn't work out. I never wanted to be a person who like rested on their laurels. I wanted to always like redefine myself. I didn't want to be like, oh, Rick Elmore, the football player my entire life. That was just a chapter of my book of my life. And I wanted to reinvent myself. And that's exactly what I did. I just took everything that made me successful as an athlete, all the transferable skills, work hard, be a good teammate, passion, desire, perseverance, strength, competitive drive, spirit, all the things that that just come with being, a good athlete. And I just applied it to my corporate world. Secret, most people don't even try. 9 out of 10 people won't even take the first step. And if you have the courage just to take the first step, what you're seeking will find you within your journey. And I keep sharing this on podcasts. Like a lot of people are lost and they don't know what they want to do, and they don't know what the next step is. The most important thing is just to keep taking steps, just not to stop. I'm a big hiker. I like, at the bottom of the trail, you see the top of the mountain. Like sometimes like you have to march down your own path. You may go down a hard route. That doesn't mean that you can't get to the top. It's just maybe a little bit harder. So may have to backpedal or go back a little bit and go do a different path. So just really important to keep going. Leading to where I am now, like building a software and robotics like business over the last 8 years, I would never have told you that was where I was going to be, when I was an athlete 15 years ago.
You identified early on that football was not going to be your forever thing. Many stories that get shared out in the media are the story of the athlete who all of a sudden, quote unquote, lost it all. How did you start to kind of separate football as this is something that I enjoy, this is something that I'm good at, but then knowing what your longer term goals were going to be or that you needed to search for that? Like, how did you separate that and define that?
I think I was always grounded in the authenticity of like being an athlete. Like that wasn't something you can do forever. I mean, being 30 years old as an athlete, you're like a dinosaur. Like you're incredibly old. Like I knew there was always like a finish line. Like I wasn't going to do it for my entire life. But I knew there was an expiration date, so I kinda always felt like the stress or anxiety of making sure, like, I capitalized on all the every minute I had left, if that made sense. That kinda helped drive my competitiveness and my work ethic because I knew, like, "Hey, every day could be my last day." So, it's like I was gonna show up every single day and make sure that I went 110% that day. Because in the NFL, I'm telling you, like, they're ruthless. Like, I'll give a story. I was played for the Cleveland Browns, and we'd walk into the locker room every day, and they would just take your stuff out of your locker and throw it in a trash bag, and there'd be a piece of paper in your locker that says, like, "Go see the front office." And, like, that's how you knew you got cut. Like, they wouldn't even tell you. They would just put your stuff in a trash bag, and I was just like, "This is brutal," Like, you move your stuff, you move your family, you
It
move,
is
like, your
brutal.
house. It is, yeah. Living on it couches, extended stays, getting cut in the middle of the week, and it was always a business decision, right? You can't take it personal in the NFL. The places I was playing my best football, I remember I played for the Arizona Cardinals in 2012, and I was just coming off my best preseason. I played for 3 years, best preseason. I had multiple forced fumbles, multiple sacks, onside kick recover. I mean, like it's really good. All that stuff is really good. And I remember, I only got signed to practice squad that year because they drafted a first round and a first round guy at my position. They brought in a 10-year veteran at my position. So I was like, all right, business decision. They're going to keep me and try to develop me. But then somebody got hurt on the defense and they needed an extra spot. So they cut me and got somebody else on the practice squad. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I played so good for you guys, And it was just like, just how it was. You can't take it personal,
Yeah.
right? It is what it is. I always knew that, hey, someday it was going to be over and I was going to have a lot more time to build a career outside of being an athlete. And I just always wanted to make sure I did that versus just depending on being an athlete my entire life. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's smart. Those are some parallels that you would experience in any kind of industry
Hmm.
where things do have to come down to business decisions. So, outside of having that experience of, hey, this role can change for me at any point in time.
Hey, quick pause. If you're still listening right now, that tells me something about you. Go ahead and click follow or subscribe so conversations like this keep showing up in your feed. It's a small click for you, but a huge help for the show. All right, let's get back to the episode.
What are some other parts of being a professional athlete that prepared you for the role that you're in now as CEO?
Consistency, and that's one. Never quitting, never giving up, playing through pain, showing up when you don't feel good. What else? I mean, just how hard it was to go through college and professional workouts, like just the mental and physical pain that you put yourself in, but you do it on purpose. And like I always kind of enjoyed it because I knew like, hey, like how hard this is, it's only going to make me better. So I kind of always like developed those, I want to say like what do you call it? Like pain. Like I want to say I'm like a masochist. Like I enjoyed the pain because like I grew through what I went through. But all that stuff was a transferable skill. Building a career is hard. Building a life is hard. You're going to go through ups and downs. Things are going to happen. How are you going to respond? I'm just fortunate I had 2 decades of experience of already developing those skills where most people don't start developing those skills until they're 25. And I started developing those at 7 years old. And I think that's one of the great things about sports. Everybody's going to become a professional in life at something. Not everybody's going to become a professional at playing a sport. But um, what you learn while playing a sport will take you far throughout your entire life. That's why I'm always a big fan of sports. I think they're great life lessons, life teachers, and yeah, I'm very thankful for that journey. But yeah, all that transferable stuff. I worked on it for 2 decades. I still am. I just turned 38, and everything I was doing when I was 7, 8 years old, just the consistency, showing up, not quitting. The what do you call it? The compounding interest
Yeah.
of your work grows over time, and then you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, look how far I've come. That's what I always try to share with people. Because they get overwhelmed and analysis paralysis and never get started.
Yeah. Tell me about it. That's my constant struggle. Should I do this? Should I do this? Oh, there's all this complexity. Maybe I shouldn't. Along those lines of being an athlete and learning all of those strength skills, whenever you kind of pivot into leading an organization such as you have, you kind of have to lean into different types of skills, like soft skills. What
Yes.
are some things that you had to unlearn on the
I'm a
flip
very
side?
yeah, I'm a very I would say matter of fact person, but it's just like black or white. It's like you either get it done or you don't. But that's not how the world operates. Like that's how like high level, Navy SEALs, NFL, NBA, the people are just at the top of the top. Like you either can do it or you can't. And if you can't, somebody else is going to do it. And that's again just not how the world operates. So just being a little bit more open-minded, and like you said, developing those softer skills, having more empathy, having the ability to like understand and not just be so rigid in your own beliefs. That's something I probably didn't, develop as an athlete because I was just like so type A, like you're going to compete, whatever. But there are things that you have to develop outside, and that's one of them. So I think the empathy, understanding, the human, more softer skills are something you have to do as a leader. And what you really learn as you start scaling and building a business is like you can't do it alone. You got to take great people with you. I remember my stepdad told me when I first like made the leap from like being a corporate person to owning my own business, he's like, hey, you're not on that cruise ship anymore. Like you're out on that dinghy by yourself in the middle of the ocean. Now it's all up to you. And it kind of get chills still because I remember like how much that impacted me. I was just like, oh my God, he's right. Like I used to have this team and everybody had their own job and we all worked together towards a common goal. Now it's on my own to like, I'm in the middle of the ocean. I have to figure it out to survive. I have to find people and build my own ship and my own cruise ship and then make sure and it hit me. And you can't do that. You know,
Yeah.
a leader can't be so rigid. A leader has to be like a builder of people and a builder of business, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. There is a lot of mentoring and support and reinforcing and coaching of your team whenever
Hmm.
you shift into that role that a lot of people don't prepare you for. You kind of think
Hmm.
you put me in the leadership position because I'm good at whatever I do, and everybody else is going to be good at whatever they do. But it's more than that. It's helping to pull everybody along and be that anchor.
Managers usually fails. They'll just find somebody really good at a job and they will promote them to a manager. And like they think that's like what's going to make their business better. Being good at your job is only half, you know, it's half the battle, right? Being good at something and like developing people and being able to teach people is a completely different skill set. It goes back to empathy and patience and understanding and like wanting to work with people. Sometimes I keep going back to my PTSD of like the NFL. Like it was so like type A and so competitive. People didn't want to help because like if they helped you, you were a risk at, taking their job.
Yeah,
But you can't be like that, So it's like a
yeah.
mind
They were the
shift.
competition.
It's like an evolution of the mind from going from being like, hey, I'm really good at something to hey, I'm good, but now I want to coach and build and develop other people so they could be good at something as well.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took a step back to dive into that a whole lot more to give that additional clarity on what that looks like. In the spirit of additional clarity, when you and I had talked before this episode, we had dove into your journey, and I had made the assumption that you moved from the NFL to you created this business and you're able to take revenue and experiences from the NFL and boom, start a business. It just happened for you. But it didn't actually happen for you like that. For the
Mm-mm.
listeners, you wanna step through what your career journey looked like before you actually got into Simply
Sure.
Noted?
Yeah, when I got done with the NFL, I mean, I had like a complete identity crisis. For the first time, I was not Rick Elmore, the athlete anymore. I was Rick Elmore. He used to play sports guy. So for the first time at 25, I was sitting there like, what am I supposed to do? Like, all I've done every single day is woke up and lived my life. Like I made decisions based on being an athlete. Like, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to go? What am I going to put in my body? When am I going to exercise? I need to go to sleep so I can recover. Like I need to go to training table. All these things, that's where my mind was for so long. And it just didn't have to operate like that. Also, when you're an athlete, everything's structured for you. And I know you use that word structure really early on in this podcast, but that's where most athletes fail. For the first time in their lives, they don't have someone telling them what to do. For them to think and make decisions and manage their own lives is really hard. It's a really hard transition. Because they're really good they're really good order takers, but they're super athletic and they're like, hey, go out there and run this route and catch that ball and score a touchdown. Like that's what they're used to doing. Not like, hey, go out there and run your own play and do whatever you want to do. Like that's not how it works. I was looking at what other people did. I was just like, what did other people do who got done? Where did they go? And all of them got into sales just because like these corporate companies love like ex-athletes because they're so driven and competitive. Like it's usually like a nice transition. I got into corporate medical sales. I took everything that made me successful as an athlete and had a lot of success. I worked harder than everybody. I show up first. I stayed late, worked on the weekends. I researched. I was used to working 24/7 already. People aren't used to doing that. So it was really easy to rise. I was a top 1% or top 5 sales rep in the company. I know I had like a unique background and interesting story, which probably made it a little bit easier, but I worked really hard. But I saw where my career was going and all my managers were on the road, you know, never saw their families, never saw their kids. They lived in bars. Their lifestyle was not a lifestyle I wanted to have. And I didn't want to be a 40-year corporate career person. So I went back and did my MBA. And again, like going to school scared me. I was never a good student. I wanted to be outside playing sports, riding my skateboard. But what I learned was, and this is a very important thing, because I know a lot of people out there feel the same way, like they don't like school. But when you find something you're passionate about, I wanted to learn about business. I wanted to learn about marketing. I wanted to learn like how to start a business, right? Like my soul like was lit on fire. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I want to do this. Like I'm engaged, I'm focused, like give me as much information as you can because I'm so interested in that. And I think that's up to the individual to figure out what that is for themselves because it doesn't have to be school or business. I mean, it can be a hobby, it can be a specific skill. And if you go so deep down your own individual interests, most people are a mile wide and an inch deep. They know a little bit about a lot. But if you can go like an inch wide and a mile deep on something, your life's going to completely change because now you're going to be such an expert on what you do. People are going to pay you a lot of money for it. Doesn't matter being on podcasts, producing podcasts, social media, writing. I mean, it doesn't matter. Figure out something you're passionate about and go so deep into it. Somebody's going to want to pay you for your expertise. But yeah, went back to my MBA and I had a marketing professor who said handwritten mail had a 99% open rate. And I mean, I thought it was a great idea, but there was no easy way to do it. I was like, man, if I can like send a lot of letters to my customers, I'm sure that's going to help me be successful. And I tested it and the response rate was amazing. And that's when I had my entrepreneurial seizure. Like when you have an idea, you talk to people about it, you test it, and then you see some results. And then like your soul gets lit on fire. And yeah, I mean, fast forward 8 years, it's been really hard. I'm a sales and football guy, and I've started a software industrial automation engineering company, like dealing in robotics. We have 9 patents on our software, completely customer funded. We're in, 10,000 square foot space, 11 employees, over 10 figures in revenue, multi 7-figure a year in revenue. And my parents didn't give me money. I don't come from a business minded family. I was the first person to go to college, in my family. So if you really want it and you're willing to work for it and not quit and keep moving forward every single day, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. Like if you want to go be in the Olympics and you're 32 years old, find something in the Olympics you can, what's that ice thing? You can like mop the floor. Show up every single day and go practice it. You'll make it happen. It's just most people aren't willing to make those daily sacrifices and show up every single day to make their dreams come true.
Going to start quitting their jobs now and start curling.
Yeah, curling. That's what it is. Curling. Yeah, curling. Yeah. I mean, you can literally do
Yeah.
whatever you want. You can do whatever you
But you're
want.
right, though. Find the thing that you're passionate about because so many people get so focused on, I have to be a doctor or a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
or whatever that career is that
No.
pays so much, not realizing your own passion will get you paid.
Yeah. I mean, that's why this worked. I was so fascinated that a robot can hold a pen and do what this does. I was just like, man, that's such a cool idea. And it kept me interested and it still does. It kept me engaged. It has to like keep you engaged. And that's like the only reason we got here. I was like, man, how cool would that be if we someday we had a warehouse full of robots moving paper and writing notes for like some of the biggest brands. It's wild. There's some companies that we work with that have been in business for 100 years, and we're sending out thank you notes in the CEO's handwriting. Like very powerful Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies. They're using our business. It still like blows my mind.
It is amazing concept and an amazing idea because I love how you said we're going to automate, we're going to use technology today, but take it back
Mm-hmm.
to its simplest form, which is people. How
Mm-hmm.
do we tap into how people feel? So it's amazing how you came up with the idea to blend two super unique things. And then plot twist within itself, it came from somebody who's an athlete that you would, coin as, well, are they as empathetic? Do they care about people? So wonderful idea. And if people have not checked out Simply Noted, absolutely should. It's an amazing business idea. And, who better than Rick to spearhead it?
Thank you.
So, last question I have for you, Rick. Absolutely, my pleasure. And it's my signature question for the podcast. If there is one plot twist that you hope this conversation creates for the listener, what is it?
One plot twist. I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Figure out what you're interested in. That 1 inch idea, but go a mile deep. But that's all unique that's individualized and unique for each of us, if that makes sense. I think we live in this social media world where there's so much pressure to do something or be something or go with the flow or when thinking differently. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to go against the flow and like how uncomfortable that is. But like being able to manage that emotion or manage that feeling and continue down that path is going to change your life. But do it in a smart way. I still worked my corporate job for like 6 or 7 months and made sure before I made the full switch. I didn't just like cut it off. You want to be smart, right? And then there's been times where I've had to like consult on the side
Mhm.
and bring in extra money, right? Because like the business wasn't doing good or it was costing too much money to do other things. So you just got to be very malleable. You can't be rigid. Some people are like, oh, it's not making money, I'm going to close it down. No, like if you're passionate about it, keep it going and figure out a way to keep it going and let time do its thing. Like great things take time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. We're at 8 years. I don't know. It's just wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say plot twist, find your interest and go a mile deep and see what happens.
I love it. And if folks want to connect with you or continue to see your journey, what's the best way for them to follow what's going on with Rick and Simply Noted?
Sure. Yeah. It's just, look me up on LinkedIn. That's my like main social media. I try to get back to anybody who reaches out. That's out, not spam. I get spam nonstop. Or just go to Simply Noted, simplynoted.com. We send a free sample kit if anybody's interested in learning about this technology. It's a big, like 10 by 13 folio. And yeah, that's the best two ways to get in contact with me.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into Plot Twist. If this story made you pause, reflect, or smile, please share it with someone who's in the middle of their own plot twist. You can catch more episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and connect with me on my socials. Until next time, keep writing your own story.